virtually.
The south coastal beaches of Florida bask in the warm Caribbean breezes. But the tranquil waters might obscure a mysterious phenomenon that preys on those who venture into the coastal area. A United States Air Force bomber disappeared in 1968. More than 1,000 lives have been lost under circumstances that cause veteran sailors to become uneasy traversing these waters. For ships like the Proteus have disappeared without a trace. Whatever it is that haunts the waters between the Florida coast, the islands of Bermuda, and the Bahamas has claimed cargo craft like the White Sulphur Queen. In the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean, there abides a phenomenon difficult to explain. A danger zone that seems to swallow ships and planes. No one has found a satisfactory answer. But somewhere in this region, between the sea and the sky, lurks the solution to the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle.
The giant squid. So to start off this list today, we have a truly bizarre discovery of a gigantic creature that came from within inside the Bermuda Triangle. In 2005, two marine biologists snapped footage of a giant squid in the waters of the triangle, and it was said to have been aggressively attacking baited lines. This would be terrifying to witness, as giant squids are massive and strong, some even growing over 150 feet long. This one that the researchers seem to have witnessed, they claim was closer to around 30 feet. This species, although very rare, is absolutely fascinating and is said to grab its prey, or in this case bait, with extreme force and violence. Some researchers believe that this startling discovery might mean that there could be more of these creatures lurking deep in the waters of the triangle, but others argue that this gigantic squid was just perhaps passing through. Either way, what those marine biologists saw that day was undoubtedly a rare sighting. In our number 9 spot today, we have comb jellies. Comb jellies are gelatinous creatures that are named for their unique plates of fused cilia, which are called combs. These combs help the jelly move through the water like boat oars, and while other microscopic organisms also have this sort of mechanism, comb jellies are the largest animal with this feature. These combs are also part of the reason that comb jellies are so gorgeous to look at. Rather than bioluminescence, the rainbow light effect that can sometimes be seen on them is from light diffracting off of the combs in all different directions. Many comb jellies have one pair of tentacles, although they appear to have multiple, but that is just caused by their tentacles branching out. These tentacles are used to help them to hunt, like a sort of fishing line. Aside from this, these jellies don't sting, which is always a good thing, but even if they did, these guys like to make their home quite deep in the ocean, so it wouldn't be too much of a problem. In our number 8 spot today, we have boulder star coral. Boulder star coral is one of the most important ingredients in reef building, so it's integral to the underwater ecosystem of the Bermuda Triangle, but unfortunately, despite that, it is currently endangered. This coral is sprouted from closely packed nodules, and it develops into massive clumps with uneven surfaces, or sometimes even into plates. This kind of coral grows up to 40% larger than other coral species, and they usually are either an orange-brown, greenish-brown, or a grayish-brown color. Because of infectious disease, hurricane damage, as well as human interference, it is believed that the boulder star coral population has decreased by an insane 50% since the 1990s. That is a massive drop in a very short period of time. Hopefully something can be done to help save the boulder star coral before it is simply just too late. In our number 7 spot today, we have the guardians of the underworld. For this one, we have a jellyfish, which has been nicknamed the guardian of the underworld. This creature can reach 10 meters or 33 feet in length, and despite its enormous size, it isn't usually caught on camera. It is said that this stunning creature is so elusive, we've been lucky if we spot it once a year since its modern discovery, and part of this is because they live so deep in the sea. They have these long, billowy things coming off of them, and although they appear as though they would be stinging tentacles, they are actually more like arms that help with feeding. It is thought that they use these massive arms to envelop their unsuspecting prey, and that was all I needed to hear to swear off the ocean forever. The red coloring of these jellies helps them blend into the dark backdrop of the deep sea, making them the perfect predator, and not only that, but they are one of the largest invertebrate predators known in the ocean. In our number 6 spot today we have the Nassau grouper. This species of fish loves to live near reefs, and in fact it is one of the largest fish that can be found around coral reefs. These fish are quite solitary and they feed only in the daytime, mostly on things like small crabs and lobsters. These guys have a super large mouth that they use to basically inhale their prey rather than the traditional hunting methods. These fish spawn in December or January, always around the time of a full moon and always in the same locations. During the full moon, guided by the light it gives off, huge numbers of these fish all cluster together in order to mate, which produces a mass spawning. Depending on the depth that these fish live at, they have different coloring, but most can be found with a stripe that resembles a tuning fork on their heads behind their eyes, which makes them look like they could be fish belonging to King Triton. In our number 5 spot today we have the scalloped hammerhead shark. These sharks of course belong to the hammerhead family, and the main feature is their oddly shaped heads. These guys are a coastal pelagic species, and their eyes and nostrils can be found at the ends of the tips of their head extensions. These sharks like to use the shore as a breeding ground, and their young have an incredibly high metabolic rate, which means that they need a ton of food or else they'll starve. These guys are quite notable for their large and complex brains. They have quite high levels of cognitive capabilities, they're socially intelligent, they have complex migratory patterns and habitat relationships, and they're quite athletic and clever when it comes to capturing prey. Great, nothing better than a super smart, extremely hungry shark. Their brains are great for the species in a multitude of ways, of course, but especially in terms of reproduction, because their social intelligence helps them seek out the fittest members of the species to procreate with. Unfortunately, as of this year, however, the scalloped hammerhead shark is now listed as critically endangered, with the main cause for the population decline being overfishing. They are overharvested because of their large size, as well as the fact that apparently their fins have a high fin needle content, so they are sold for $100 to $120 per kilogram. In our number 4 spot today we have the European eel. These guys are of course a species of eel, and they usually grow to be around 60 to 80 centimeters or 2 to 2.5 feet, but they have been found measuring up to 1.5 meters or almost 5 feet, which is a bit of a terrifying thought. One super weird thing about these guys is that we actually don't know what their lifespan is like in the wild. Captive specimens have lived for over 80 years, with one known as the Brantivik eel living in the well of a family home for 150 years. This European eel is currently critically endangered, and it is said that since the 1970s, the number of eels reaching their migration destination has declined by 90%. The factors contributing to this are things like overfishing, parasites, and barriers to migration, like hydroelectric dams. To help save these eels, there have been a few breeding projects created, and one that was created attempted to help them breed by simulating a 6,500 kilometer or 4,000 mile migratory journey with a swimming machine. The news of any species being endangered is a tragedy, but it really is nice to hear of the things that are actively being done to help. In our number 3 spot today we have the Bahamian hatia. This large rodent is one of the land animals that finds its home on the land surrounding the Bermuda Triangle. Its natural habitats are subtropical lowland areas, and it is kind of like a rat-like rodent with a short tail. They grow to be somewhere around 60 centimeters or 24 inches, and they vary in color between black, brown, gray, white, or a sort of reddish color. These animals are nocturnal and they remain underground during the day. They're able to climb trees, but they prefer to forage on the ground for things like leaves, shoots, fruit, nuts, and bark. These guys are actually endemic to the Bahamas, so you won't find them literally anywhere else on Earth. For a while it was believed that this species was actually extinct, but that changed in 1966 when a biologist found a small population in an uninhabited area of an island. The Planicays are currently the last natural habitat for these guys, however, and they are the home of the last surviving population. In our number 2 spot today we have the Portuguese man-o-war. These guys are often mistaken for jellyfish, and while they are closely related, these guys are a family of their own. The super interesting thing about these creatures is that they are a siphonophore, which means that they're comprised of a colony of specialized, genetically identical individuals called zooids, all with various forms and functions. These guys are found in tropical and subtropical seas, so of course, the Bermuda Triangle is a great home for them, and they're propelled by either wind or ocean currents alone. These guys can be recognized by their balloon-like float, which can be pink, blue, or violet. Under the float, the man-o-war has tentacles and polyps that are super long, growing to an average of 30 feet and being able to extend 100 feet. These tentacles are where things can get a little bit dicey, however, as they are full of little stingers which are designed to deliver venom that is capable of killing their prey. Luckily, the man-o-war sting is rarely deadly to people, but rarely does not mean impossible. It will, however, be extremely painful and can cause large welts on exposed skin. In our number 1 spot today, we have tiger sharks. Tiger sharks are a species of shark that are the only surviving member of their genus. These macro predators can grow to be quite large, reaching lengths of over 5 meters or 16 feet 5 inches. They are usually found in tropical and temperate waters, and their tiger name comes from the dark stripes that can be distinctly seen running down its body, although these marks do fade as the sharks mature. Tiger sharks live mostly solitary lives, and they are nocturnal hunters. They're also well known for having quite the variety of prey, which includes crustaceans, fish, seals, birds, squid, turtles, sea snakes, dolphins, and even other smaller sharks. Unfortunately, these sharks are nearing a point of being a threatened species due to finning and fishing by humans, but it is thought that the Bermuda Triangle might be the home to a secret sort of breeding ground for these guys. Hopefully, if this is the case, we can find a way to help protect the area so that the species can once again thrive. After the great white shark, tiger sharks are the second in line when it comes to the most recorded fatal attacks on humans, but although that sounds terrifying, these events are still extremely rare.
Starting off this countdown, we have the cookie cutter shark. These sharks are called the cookie cutter shark due to the fact that they leave a cookie-shaped bite hole in their prey, but they are pretty small compared to other sharks. They grow to about only 20 inches, but they are still highly aggressive. In fact, they have been known to attack whales, even great white sharks. These little guys also have the largest teeth out of any species of shark. In fact, their bites are so strong and sharp that they have managed to bite through submarines. I kid you not. Also, they have been known to bite through cables or deep sea equipment. So you definitely don't want to get in the way of these guys. Coming in at number 9, we have the oarfish. The oarfish is the world's longest bony fish. They can be up to 56 feet in length and can weigh about 600 pounds. They also look pretty weird. They look like a cross between an eel and a fish. Not only that, but they have bright silvery skin with bright red spikes running down their back. In fact, it gave 2 men quite the scare once. Back in 1860, 2 men were gathering seaweed on the coast of Bermuda when this creature washed up on the rocks. They immediately thought it was a nasty sea serpent beast, so they killed it out of fear. Later, it was found out just to be an oarfish. In our 8th spot today, we have the ETs. Now, there are many theories about the Bermuda Triangle regarding the disappearances of both ships and planes. One of the theories is that aliens are behind this, which seems wild to think about, but a number of aliens or ETs have been spotted in the Bermuda Triangle. Christopher Columbus himself spotted an ET when he was traversing the ocean. He apparently wrote about his encounter with a UFO in his diaries. Apparently, Columbus wrote about seeing a bright disc-shaped object rise out of the ocean and fly into the sky. He also said he saw stars spinning above them and a candle-like light floating up and down around them. So people think that he saw an alien spacecraft and that they're living at the bottom of the ocean. In our 7th spot today, we have the giant squid. In 2005, 2 Japanese marine biologists discovered a massive giant squid in Japan. The squid was aggressively attacking baited lines in the area. Now, they did actually manage to capture footage of it, and researchers were able to identify the creature as being an archituitis. This is a rare species that can seize bait with extreme force. They're also known as being pretty violent, and this creature was close to 30 feet in length, so it was massive. Now this got scientists thinking. What if there are giant squids of this species residing in the Bermuda Triangle? Since they are violent and known to attack ships, maybe these creatures can be blamed for some of the ship's downfall. I mean, over the years people have spotted what they believed is the Kraken in the Bermuda Triangle. But what if what they were seeing was really just a massive, aggressive, giant squid? In fact, some squids grow up to 150 feet. Coming in at number 6, we have the frilled shark. Now I can't believe that this is an actual creature because it looks like a creature straight out of a horror film. The frilled shark has been around for 80 million years so far. They were given the name the frilled shark because of their frilly appearance of their gills. They also are kind of similar to snakes because they have hinged jaws that allow them to eat big creatures whole. Like when I look at this thing, it looks like a weird mix between a shark and an eel and a snake. It's also got the scariest looking set of teeth. Now these things typically grow to about 7 feet. However, in 1880 a captain discovered one that measured to be around 25 feet. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Man of War. Now this is quite an interesting name for a sea creature. In fact, this sea creature is quite interesting. It looks like a jellyfish, but it's not. It's a siphonophore. Now it gets its name due to its 4 polyps that it has on its body. One of the polyps, which is a gas-filled bladder, is said to resemble an old warship at full sail. So yeah, that's why they named it that. Now these things can grow to about 130 feet, which is longer than a blue whale. However, their bodies are very tiny. They aren't much wider than a broomstick handle. Now humans have to be careful around these guys because they use their tentacles to sting and paralyze their prey. Some humans have been stung by them and apparently the stings turn into nasty welts and it's incredibly painful. As an adult, chances are that you'll survive this sting. However, sadly a number of children have died from the venom of the Man of War. In our 4th spot we have the fang-toothed fish. Now this creature gets its name because of its massive fang-like teeth. In fact, it has the largest teeth compared to body size of any known fish. So the fang-toothed fish are carnivorous. They love to eat smaller fish and crustaceans, but they have also been known to go after squids. Honestly, they'll just eat anything that they're able to kill. They have massive jaws lined with enormous teeth. In fact, their fangs are so large that they actually evolved to have special sockets on either side of their brain to accommodate their large fangs. Also, they are pretty dark in color, which allows them to blend in perfectly with the deep dark ocean waters. In our 3rd spot we have the mega mouth shark. If you're afraid of sharks, then this one is just going to send chills down your spine. Just as its name suggests, these sharks have mega mouths. In fact, they have glowing pores around their mouths so that their mouths actually glow. This helps them in their hunting process. All they gotta do is open their mouth and wait for a fish to be attracted to the light. Now, their mouths are about 4 feet wide, which is insane. Their bodies are typically around 16 feet in length, but they can grow to be about 20. In our 2nd spot we have the nudibranch or nudibranch. I've heard it said both ways, okay? Anyways, these creatures are soft-bodied, shell-less marine mollusks or sea slugs. They actually can look quite beautiful with their bright colorful bodies. Now its name literally means naked gill, hence the whole nudie part. What's interesting about these is that they like to steal the stinging cells from their prey and then they use that on their predators to defend themselves. That's pretty wild, right? And in our number 1 spot today we have the Bermuda beast. Over the years, sailors have spotted a weird creature lurking in the waters of the Bermuda Triangle that is unlike anything that they have ever seen before. Legend goes that the monster is apparently 4 times the size of the Eiffel Tower. It's also super strong, making it easy to snatch planes in mid-air, and has strong, powerful teeth that can be used to tear apart ships. This creature has been given the name the Bermuda Beast. Bermuda researcher Rob Simone greatly believes there is indeed a creature lurking in the Bermuda waters. He says, and I quote, "Maybe its food source is contained there. It could explain some of the ships that were mysteriously lost." Now, in the diaries of Christopher Columbus, he wrote about seeing an underwater fire-breathing beast while traveling in the area. Now, I don't know so much about the whole fire-breathing thing, but maybe there is some massive sea beast living in that area.
Coming in at number 10 is Flight 19. Perhaps the most disputed plane disappearance occurred in early December 1945 when not one but 6 planes vanished, which have yet to be recovered. On that day, in average weather conditions, 5 Avenger torpedo bombers, which are well known in the aviation community for their immensity, took off from their base in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for bombing practice in what has since become known as the Bermuda Triangle. After experiencing problems with their compasses, which is known to happen in that area, as well as the Chinese Sea, the 5 planes lost communication with the ground station. However, the ground station could still follow communications between the pilots of the planes, during which it was noted they became disoriented as to their location and decided that once the first plane dropped below 10 gallons of fuel, all planes were to ditch to the sea. An intense rescue mission ensued immediately by the Coast Guard and the Navy that covered 700,000 square kilometers over 5 days, during which another plane carrying 13 passengers disappeared, never to be found again. The only clue as to its fate was a report from an ocean liner that was in the supposed location of the plane at that specific time, claiming to have seen a giant fireball in the sky. However, no debris of the 6 missing planes or their passengers have ever been found. So what happened to these men? It seems like we'll never know. Number 9. USS Cyclops. USS Cyclops was the second of 4 Proteus-class cullers built for the United States Navy several years before World War I. The loss of the ship and 306 crew and passengers happened after March 4th, 1918, remains the largest loss of life in history of the United States Navy not directly involving combat. Reports indicate that on March 10th, the day after Cyclops was rumored to have been sighted in Immokalee, a violent storm swept through the Virginia Capes area. While some suggest that the combination of the overloaded condition, engine trouble, and bad weather may have conspired to sink Cyclops, an extensive naval investigation concluded many theories have been advanced, but none that satisfactorily accounts for her disappearance. On June 1st, 1918, Assistant Secretary of the Navy Franklin D. Roosevelt declared Cyclops to be officially lost and all hands deceased. Number 8. Christopher Columbus. Stories of strange activity within the Bermuda Triangle date back hundreds of years, and some of the earliest are the stories told by Christopher Columbus and his crew. During his first journey across the Atlantic Ocean in 1492, Columbus reported many strange sightings within the Bermuda Triangle. The first of these were that the stars appeared to move around the sky. Another was that Columbus saw a light, like that of a candle, moving up and down in the distance. When he asked his crew to look at the light, it vanished and reappeared many times. Now, the most unusual thing that Columbus says he saw was a glowing object coming out of the water and shooting towards the sky. Many people think this must have been the light on shore from another ship. However, some people believe that Columbus saw a UFO. He also wrote about his compass going out of whack and stopped working, so it's safe to say crazy things have been happening in the Bermuda Triangle forever. Number 7. Witchcraft. On December 22nd, 1967, a cabin cruiser named Witchcraft left Miami with her captain Dan Barak and his friend Father Patrick Horgan. The journey on the 23-foot luxury yacht was to enjoy the wonderful view of Miami's Christmas lights. However, after reaching just 1 mile from offshore, the Coast Guard received a call from the captain stating that his ship had hit something, but there was no substantial damage. Indicating help to be towed from the shore, the Coast Guard set off immediately, reaching Witchcraft as in many as 19 minutes alone, but to nothing. The area indicating the ship's location was completely deserted, with no signs of any ship having been stranded or present there previously. What's most intriguing about this story is that this particular cruiser was virtually unsinkable, not to mention numerous life-saving devices present on board, including life jackets, lifeboats, flares, distress signal devices, etc. Now, none of them were used, the ship was just gone. The Coast Guard officials searched hundreds of square miles over the ocean for the next few days, but were unsuccessful. Nothing of the ship has been found until this day, and the ship is gone, and what remains is only the speculation of what can be done now. Number 6. Mako Cuddy Cabin. In 2021, the blue and white 29-foot Mako Cuddy cabin boat left Bimini in the Bahamas and was expected to arrive in Lake Fort Beach, Florida the following day. There were reported 20 people on board, and it just seemed to disappear. An area of roughly 17,000 square miles, almost double the size of Massachusetts, was searched for 84 hours. Captain Stephen V. Burden of the U.S. Coast Guard added, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the family of the missing people. I encourage anyone with information information about the people on board to contact us as soon as possible. Now, unfortunately, after searching for so long, the search was suspended and they were never found. Number 5. Ellen Austin. In 1881, the 210 feet long Ellen Austin was going to New York from London when she stumbled upon a derelict near the Bermuda Triangle. Everything seemed fine with the boat drifting just north of the Sargasso Sea, but the missing crew. Captain Baker of the Ellen Austin asked to observe the derelict for 2 days to make sure it was not a trap. After 2 days with no response from the ship, the captain entered the abandoned vessel with his crew to find the well-packed shipment and no sign of the crew. To tow it back with the Ellen Austin, the captain placed a prize crew on the ship, set sail together. However, after 2 days of sail on calm waters, a squall separated the path of the two ships, following which the derelict vanished. Days after the storm, according to the stories, Captain Barker's lookout could spot the vessel through his spyglass, only to realize the vessel drifting far away aimlessly once again. Finally, after hours of effort, Ellen Austin could catch up to the vessel, but strangely, no one was on board. However, another version of the story suggests a second attempt by Barker to bring her back to land, but ended the same fate before Ellen Austin before abandoning the cursed vessel. Other reports suggest that the vessel was once more spotted, but this time had a separate crew than the prize crew placed on it by Ellen Austin. The ship's disappearance, reappearance, and the prize crew's absence is an intriguing story. It's more like a secret of the Bermuda Triangle, one that seemingly no chances of being unraveled anytime soon. Number 4. Carol A. Deering. Carol A. Deering, a 5-mast commercial schooner, is one of the most written about maritime mysteries of the 20th century due to the complete mystery around its abandonment. On January 31st, 1921, Carol A. Deering was found hard aground of the treacherous rocks of Hatteras Diamond Shoals, North Carolina. There were speculations that the vessel was involved in a rum running. However, when the investigation team from Barbados reached the vessel, after days of effort in the rough sea, what they found was a deserted ship with all crew members missing, along with the crew's personal belongings, ship's navigational equipment, logbooks, life rafts, among others. Often known as the ghost ship of the Outer Banks, the disappearance of Carol A. Deering, along with a few other vessels during the same time period in the Bermuda Triangle, has been valuable information on the mysterious waters, but nothing could bring anyone closer to solving this mystery. Reports suggest as many as 9 vessels disappeared during this period from the same region, none of which was ever heard from again. Number 3. USS Narrows. USS Narrows was one of the 4 Produce class cullers built for the United States Navy before World War I. Detached from Naval Overseas Transportation Service on September 12, 1919, Narrows served with the Atlantic Fleet until decommissioned in Norfolk on June 30, 1922. She was laid up there until struck from the Navy list on December 5, 1940. Sold to the Aluminum Company of Canada on February 27, 1941, Narrows operated out of Montreal, carrying bauxite from the Caribbean to aluminum plants in the United States and Canada. Narrows was lost at sea sometime after December 10, 1941, while steaming from St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, along the same route where her sister ship, USS Cyclops, had disappeared, with ore destined to make aluminum for allied craft. Narrows was presumed sunk after being torpedoed by a German U-boat. However, there are no German U-boat claims for the vessel. Both Narrows and the Cyclops could have been lost to U-boats, which were later lost themselves to Allied action or storms at sea. The wreckage has never been located, nor the actual cause of the disappearance determined. So what happened? Who knows? Number 2. Mary Celeste. Possibly one of the most mysterious stories of shipwrecks, the ship has a tale of its own. Despite being found adrift in some other location in the Atlantic Ocean, the connection to the Bermuda Triangle had been somehow invoked to find the answer to the mystery of its fate. Discovered on December 4, 1872 with everything right in place except for the entire crew, the ship was found stranded on the sea days after its journey from New York to Genoa, Italy. There were 7 crew members and Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, and his daughter were aboard the vessel, loaded with raw alcohol. But days later, when a passing ship called Del Grati found Mary Celeste under partial sail in the Atlantic off the Azores Islands, the ship was unmanned with no crew aboard, and the lifeboat was also missing. It was also found that 9 of the barrels in the cargo were empty, and there was a sword on the deck. No trace of the people aboard the vessel or the missing lifeboat has ever been found. Studies of the ship clearly rule out the possibility of a pirate attack, since everything on the ship, including the barrels of alcohol,
alcohol it was transporting, and the crew's valuable belongings were intact. Theories surrounding the mystery of the Mary Celeste also include the chances of a criminal conspiracy, alien abduction, and even an attack by a giant squid. The possibility of a natural disaster was also on the list, and many suggest the role of an undersea earthquake is behind the accident, while few propose an accidental foraying of the vessel into the Bermuda Triangle. However, as much as these speculations seem reasonable, they clearly don't fit. After all, why would a perfectly skilled crew on a good weather day with their ship entirely uncompromised abandon it and never surface again? And coming in at number 1 is Star Ariel. On January 17, 1949, BSAA Tudor 4B Star Ariel was on the ground at Kinley Field in Bermuda awaiting instructions. It was put into service at 8:41 and it left Bermuda bound for Kingston in Jamaica. The flight was planned to take under 6 hours, and Star Ariel carried sufficient fuel for 11 hours of flight. It carried 7 crew, Captain John McPhee in addition to a first officer, second officer, radio operator, flight engineer, and 2 Stargirls female cabin attendants, and 13 passengers. Weather conditions were excellent with wind and no cloud cover above 10,000 feet. Captain McPhee filed a plan that took advantage of this. Midway through the flight, he switched radio stations, and it was believed that he was communicating with the others, so the first station didn't worry. But that was not the case. The last time he was heard was when he said he was switching channels. Now, confusion over just which station Star Ariel was in contact with led to a considerable delay in realizing that something was wrong. The protocol was that an aircraft would not break contact with one radio station until it had made contact with the next station on its route. Now, they created a search team, and on the 18th of January, the search area was expanded and joined by the US Navy Task Force. For 5 days, dozens of ships and aircraft searched the ocean southwest of Bermuda. Although weather conditions were good, no wreckage, oil slicks, debris, or bodies were found. The search was called off on the 23rd of January, and the plane and its passengers were never found.
Alright, coming in at number 10 we have the Mystery Light. In 1492, Christopher Columbus was on board the Santa Maria with his crew on his first voyage to the New World. He sailed through the area we now know as the Bermuda Triangle and reported seeing fire on the horizon, despite there being no discernible land. He wrote in his diary describing the flame as a small wax candle that rose and lifted up. On investigation, they couldn't get to the bottom of what it was. In modern times, people attribute the light to Columbus witnessing a meteor crash. Others, not so convinced. Coming in at number 9, Bruce Gernon and the Time Warp. A lot of the Bermuda Triangle encounters happened a long time ago, or there simply aren't any key eyewitnesses to discuss their experiences. Bruce Gernon is very much alive and kicking, and he had a very strange experience flying over the Bermuda Triangle on his way to Palm Beach in the 1970s. At the time, he was an experienced personal pilot and a grown-up flying with his dad. Shortly after taking off from Andros in the Bahamas, Gernon came across a storm, so he tried to fly around it. He found a strange tunnel in the clouds and decided he's gonna fly through it. Here's what he had to say about it.
The airplane penetrated into the tunnel. These strange lines formed.
Right. Okay, so that's what he had to say. In the tunnel, he said he had a feeling as if he was slipping through time and space. He said that when he got out of the cloud tunnel after 20 seconds, the Miami air controllers had been worried as his plane had totally disappeared off their radars. He describes an electromagnetic yellow-greyish fog surrounding the plane and messing with his instruments. When he emerged from the fog, he thought that he was going to be over Bimini, but air control told him that actually he was flying directly over Miami Beach. What should have taken him around 80 minutes of flight time had only taken 34 minutes. He was baffled. He seems to have travelled 100 miles in just 3 minutes. So this is roughly 1,918 miles per hour when his plane was only capable of travelling at 200 miles per hour. Weird. Famous pilot Charles Lindbergh also reported something very similar in the area. Weird. Coming in at number 8 we have the Ellen Austin encounter. In 1880 the Ellen Austin came across an unidentified schooner ship drifting in the Bermuda Triangle's Sargasso Sea. Now it was sailing a very weird erratic path, and Captain Baker of the Ellen Austin decided to trail the ship for 2 days just to check it wasn't a trap. After 48 hours the Ellen Austin came close to the boat and received no return signal. Captain Baker decided to send 4 of his men on board to investigate the ship. Weapons drawn dawn, they got no response. On investigation, they saw no signs of life, but also no signs of struggle. The only thing that seemed awry was that the entire crew were missing, and curiously, as was the ship's logbook. Finding a perfect stash of mahogany on board, the captain formed a prize crew of his most trusted men and ordered that they sailed the ship to New York. Days later, the Ellen Austin came across the very same vessel again. Now they sent out signals, and once again it was met with no response. Again, the ship seemed to be drifting aimlessly. Captain Baker sent more men over, who found their prize crew totally absent, again without signs of a fray, and again the logbook was missing. Captain Baker's crew were freaked out, but he demanded that a small crew of new men once again try and steer the boat and its bounty to New York. It took hours of convincing, as many thought that the ship was cursed. However, he did manage to assemble a crew. Now, that was the last anyone ever saw of the schooner or the crew ever again. They simply disappeared. Coming into number 7, we have the missing USS Cyclops. After departing Barbados on the 4th of March 1918, the USS Cyclops went missing without a trace, with a crew of 309 people. The ship was carrying a whole load of manganese ore and was never seen again, leaving absolutely no trace. Now by this point, it's a very familiar story. The incident was the single greatest loss of life in the history of the US Navy, whilst not actively engaged in combat. Was the ship too heavy, or did the Bermuda Triangle pull it down to its murky depths? Coming into number 6, we have Carol A. Deering. Good old Carol was the name of a 5-masted schooner. She'd been afloat for 3 years when she was found run aground and abandoned on the 31st of January 1921, which is exactly 98 years ago on the day that I scripted this video, which is really spooky. The wreck was found in Cape Hatteras in North Carolina, but she was supposed to be sailing from Puerto Rico to Rio, right in the heart of the Bermuda Triangle. She was gonna cut straight through it. Now, no trace of the crew were ever found. Some people speculated mutiny, others say the ship may have been attacked by pirates, citing the Prohibition era of the incident. Sadly, we will never know. Coming into number 5, we have the 2017 Turkish airline incident. So this is actually very recent. In February 2017, Turkish Airlines flight TK183 encountered some strange problems as it flew over the Bermuda Triangle. It seems that the Airbus A330-200 was forced to change its direction from Havana, Cuba to Washington Duluth Airport. The pilot and crew reported mechanical and electrical problems. Now, electrical problems, after what we've already heard, to me, that's just pretty interesting. Coming into number 4, this is a little bit more tin hat, we have the Lost City of Atlantis. The legend of the Lost City of Atlantis claims that the city radiated a mysterious energy that caused navigational instruments to break down, which kind of sounds like what we know from the area. Is the Lost City of Atlantis under the Bermuda Triangle? The legend of Atlantis also talks about interesting rock formations on the ocean bed. Now, these are rather like some of those located on the ocean bed in the Bahamas. These are called Bimini Road. Some mystics believe that Atlantis lies at the very, very bottom of the murky depths, and the energy of the lost souls, the ghosts of the drowned citizens, are what are causing the disappearances and luring people to their watery deaths, leaving absolutely no trace to the outside world. Honestly, I'm not sold on this one. Coming into number 3, we have the alien wreckage. Discovery Channel host Daryl Miklos was filming a show whilst diving in the Caribbean using maps made by former NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper. Now, he was in search of old shipwrecks and magnetic anomalies. He was investigating what he thought might be an ancient shipwreck, but it turns out it was something else entirely. Miklos described it as a formation unlike anything he had ever seen, being far too big for a shipwreck, he also said. Now, he said something which I thought was really interesting. He said it was something that was completely different from anything that I've ever seen made by nature. This led him to speculate that actually it might be something entirely unearthly. Miklos also found another strange object and formation all around the big puzzling object, all of which are covered in thick coral, thought to date back hundreds upon hundreds of years. When Miklos studied Cooper's work, he found that the astronaut believed in aliens. Now, this led to the Discovery Channel host speculating that the mysterious wreckage could be a crashed alien spaceship. Because, you know, what else? Coming into number 2, we have the UFOs over the Triangle. Can we explain the Bermuda Triangle with aliens? Maybe. It seems that there was a terrifying alien encounter on board the USS John F. Kennedy in the 1970s, but crew on board the ship were told by the captain to keep stum. It seems that the ship was set to return to Virginia after 2 weeks in the Caribbean, and was in the middle of the ocean when the crew on deck looked up to see a large glowing sphere around 200 to 300 feet in diameter. One eyewitness said it was yellow and orange in colour, and all of the radar screens on board the boat lit up. Naval officers tried to deploy 2 F-4 Phantoms to intercept the UFO, but they simply wouldn't start. Eventually the UFO moved on days later, and as the ship was making its approach back to the USA, the captain warned the crew against speaking of the incident. This isn't the only time it's happened either. It seems Google Maps shows a UFO just outside of the triangle. Finally, coming into number 1, we have the disappearance of Flight 19. Now this is the most famed legend surrounding the Bermuda Triangle and one of the hardest to explain. It all went down on December 5th, 1945, when 5 TBM Avenger bombers, grouped as Flight 19, were flying over the Bermuda Triangle. The flight never returned to Fort Lauderdale as planned, and the worst was feared, with the general theory being that something had gone wrong and the planes had run out of fuel. As there were 14 men lost, the Navy sent out a rescue mission to search for survivors, or at least to confirm the wreck. 13 crew were set off on the Martin PBM Mariner flying boat, but that flight never made it back either. Neither wrecks have ever been found, nor have any traces of the missing people. Now the story made international news and helped perpetuate the legend of the Bermuda Triangle.
Starting us off at number 10 is true north. Very few places on Earth will ever actually point to true north. What is true north? True north is the direction that points exactly towards the geographic North Pole. Being that there are next to no markers and obviously no landmarks in the middle of the ocean, when GPS and other high-tech systems go awry, ships and other craft are forced to use their compasses as a way to stay on track. Compasses operate usually by pointing towards magnetic north, as the compass aligns with Earth's magnetic field. Magnetic north can shift depending on the change in the Earth's magnetic core, which operators and sailors are prepared for, thus creating a huge issue when operators and sailors traveling through the mysterious triangle discover that their compass is no longer working properly, because it's pointing to true north instead of magnetic north. I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've ever had to use a compass, and I think no matter what my compass reads, I would still be lost at sea. So Bermuda doesn't sound like the greatest vacay spot, but let's continue to see what's in store before we make up our mind. At number 9, we have the deepest spot on Earth. So we always talk about how much we want to keep exploring space and we want to get to know our own universe, but you know what's really funny to me? We still have barely scraped the surface, or under the surface, for exploring our own ocean. One of those places being the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is home to one of the deepest spots on Earth. Underneath the surface, the topography of the seafloor goes from a gentle sloping continental shelf to a drop of a few hundred feet to another drop of a few who knows how many thousand feet. Many disappearances that have been reported in the Bermuda Triangle could have their answers laying somewhere at the bottom of these deep trenches. But until we actually start exploring our oceans just as much as we explore space, just like whatever lays at the bottom, we will be left in the dark. At our number 8 spot, we have methane gas. This gas is colorless, odorless, highly flammable, and one of the main components in natural gas which we all use to generate electricity and heat our homes all around the world. But guess what? It's also in the Bermuda Triangle. Due to decomposing sea organisms, scientists have discovered large concentrations of methane gas trapped in the ocean floor. Methane accumulates as concentrated methane ice, and if and when a pocket ruptures, the gas rockets upwards towards the surface without any warning or notice to those sailing above. If a ship were to be in the area of the blowout, it could possibly sink because the water would become much less dense, and sediment could quickly cover it as the wreck lands on the sea floor. As of right now, there is no proof that this is the reason for any of the missing ships that have been reported in the Bermuda Triangle, but then again, how would we ever know? At our number 7 spot, we have Rogue Waves. Now does that not sound like a great band name, or what? Due to the location of the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic Ocean, storms can come from all directions. They can come from Mexico, from the equator, or the east side of the Atlantic. These storms of course make major waves reaching up to 30 feet or 10 meters tall, but what happens when they all come together at the exact same moment? These rogue waves can reach up to sizes of 100 feet or 30 meters tall. Engineers at the University of Southampton built models of different sized ships and simulated their own rogue waves in a wave tank for the small scale ships. What happened? These engineers discovered that these ships could indeed sink. The bigger the ship, the easier it was to sink, because big ships are designed to be supported in the front by the top of a wave, while the back is supported by another. But if hit by a rogue wave, those big ships, guess what? they snap in two. The small ones can sometimes survive if they hit the wave bow on, but most times will just get swallowed up completely. Rogue waves? Hopefully not coming to an ocean near you. At our number 6 spot, we have electronic fog. So far, out of the many distress calls claiming to come from an electronic fog, these stories and events have been labeled as supernatural and not taken seriously. But there are reports from actual pilots who have flown through these strange phenomena, and it's wild. Veteran pilot Bruce Gurnon reports that when he was flying with his father in his classic Bonanza plane back in 1970, about 3 miles off Andros Island, an elliptical shaped cloud began forming in front of them. Before the father and son could escape the path of this mysterious cloud, they were engulfed and had a tunnel form all the way around them. And while in the cloud flying at 10,000 feet, they reported seeing lines in the tunnel spiraling counterclockwise while propelling them forward. They then started feeling the effects of zero gravity, and all of their navigational systems started to fail. Fortunately, this electronic spiraling fog tunnel dissipated and they found themselves right over Miami Beach and were once again able to pick up radar. The next strange thing? They traveled 100 miles in 30 minutes less time than usual. Similar stories to Gurnon's have been reported as well, but with no real answers to how or why. Some suspect it could be something related to the Hutchison effect, but as of right now the electronic fog is still a mystery. Coming in at our number 5's midway spot is the once infamous mythical creature proven to be real, the giant squid. Aside from the many strange events and things found in the Bermuda Triangle, some have reported seeing a giant octopus, or octopi if there are more than one. I wonder. Now, as of right now, there is no such thing as these creatures, but giant squid are indeed a real animal, and 2 Japanese scientists believe they caught one on camera. In 2005, 2 Japanese scientists spotted a giant squid aggressively taking baited lines. Normally, these creatures are not known to be in this area of ocean, but the footage says differently. These giant squid can reach up to 150 feet. Seeing the aggressive nature of this creature as well as the size, it is no wonder some believe that they could be responsible for some of the disappearing ships. Speaking of, coming in our top 4 spot, we have ships that have gone missing. As I said earlier, there are more than 50 ships that are reported to have gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle over the years. One of the most notorious ones being the USS Cyclops. One of the Navy's largest fuel ships went missing back in March 1918. This ship was carrying 10,800 tons of manganese ore with 309 crew members on board. Only one message was received from the ship during its voyage from Brazil to Baltimore, and it reported no trouble whatsoever while it was out on the sea. But then, it sailed through the Bermuda Triangle. The ship never made it to its destination and was never found. Not only was the ship never found, but also no debris or crew members either. There was no distress call received anywhere. One of the largest ships in the Navy and everything on board and everyone on board gone missing in a flash with no explanation? That's scary. Starting us off at our number 3 spot is planes gone missing. Over 20 aircraft just like ships have gone missing over the years, and some of these reports are quite recent too. One of the latest being just last year in May when a small twin-engine plane mysteriously went missing. Same thing as the USS Cyclops, those aboard started their flight with no complications whatsoever, and there were no distress calls reported or anything out of the ordinary. Once again, no wreckage, crew, or any signs of any explanation can be found. But maybe our next one on the list will help. At our number 2 spot, we have UFO sightings. If you have been keeping up to date with any of the alien news lately, you will know that there have been more than a couple of sightings all over North America in the last few years. One of them taking place over the Bermuda Triangle, April 28, 2020, reported by not just anyone, but the United States Air Force. Many of the United States Air Force members have come out quite recently with more and more sightings, with some of them dating all the way back to the 1970s, right over top of the Bermuda Triangle. I hear more and more alien information every day, and I am loving it. If I ever have a major reason to go to Bermuda, it's to see some aliens. Come on, who's coming with me? Finally, coming in at our number 1 spot is something we're going to have to grab our proton packs for, because our final and weirdest thing found in Bermuda is ghost ships. Back in 1881, the infamous Ellen Austin ship experienced a ghost ship in an area of the Bermuda Triangle before things went awfully awry. The crew of the Ellen Austin discovered the ship fully stocked but with no crew on board or anywhere to be seen. Seeing an opportunity for a free ship with supplies, part of the Ellen Austin crew took over the ship and prepared to sail back with the ships side by side. Just then, an unexpected storm came out of nowhere and totally engulfed the 2 ships. After the storm was over the next day, both ships came out of the Terror, but no crew was anywhere to be seen on the picked up ghost ship. Just then, crew members and captain of the Ellen Austin came aboard once again and then got swallowed up by a mysterious fog. And once the fog cleared, the ghost ship completely vanished along with everything and everyone. I hate to say it, but I guess that's karma, and she's always gonna come for you. Starting us off at our number 10 spot is one that isn't as weird, but one that is obvious. Film crews. Due to the wild and crazy stories centered around the Bermuda Triangle, many scientists, researchers, ghost hunters, alien hunters, and divers have taken plenty of camera crews out to sea many times. Now, due to all of these crazy, amazing stories, I tried to do some research and see if there were any other missing film crews or anything along those lines in the Bermuda Triangle. But sadly, and probably fortunately, I had no luck whatsoever, which is very fishy to me. All of these disappearances and strange stories, all of them seem to have no camera or film crew. Sounds like the Bermuda Triangle powers that be are pretty smart and refuse for any of the juicy stuff to be recorded. This is also one of the most popular shipping routes in the world, so it would be great for all of those who frequently sail the triangle to document it. I wonder if anything would actually show up on tape. At our number 9 spot, we have sea monsters. In part 1, remember how I talked about the giant squid that had been caught on camera in the triangle? Well, there have been more reports of sea monsters there over the years, but let me clear up something first. The Webster's Dictionary defines monster as an animal of strange or terrifying shape and one unusually large for its kind. Based off that definition, there are definitely sea monsters swimming below the surface in the Bermuda Triangle. Sadly, none are proven to be ancient dinosaurs or anything like the Loch Ness Monster, but rather are huge marine animals, such as the endangered whale shark, which has been known to swim in and around the waters of the Bermuda Triangle. And there is no doubt that if someone first saw this shark, they would scream sea monster. These things are huge and usually reach lengths of 15 to 20 feet. So these may not be the kind of sea monsters you were originally looking for, but I think all those super scary monsters that we're actually looking for live deeper below the surface. And like I said, until we start exploring our own planet, especially our oceans a little bit more, I'm afraid we'll just have to live with the unknown. At number 8, we have the Portuguese man of war. Sounds like a wicked awesome ship, am I right? Well, it may sound like that, but it's actually closer to one big giant jellyfish, even though it's not just one animal. The Portuguese man of war is a siphonophore, which means it is an animal made up of a colony of organisms that work together. These organisms are made up of 4 separate polyps, and the top polyp is the weird looking part for where it got its name because it sits above the water and resembles what it looks to be like a man of war ship. They are also known as blue bottles for their bluish purple colors. The tentacles on these creatures can extend up to 165 feet underwater and are covered in venom-filled nematocysts. These tentacles can paralyze and kill other fish and smaller creatures, but to humans, it's just a really painful sting. They have been known to wash up dead on the beach, but careful, these things can still sting you after they are dead. And trust me when I say, it's gonna hurt. Coming in at number 7 and back to the mysterious kind of things we all love out of the Bermuda Triangle, we have Joshua Slocum. No, I'm not calling this guy weird, I'm saying his disappearance is weird. In 1895, Joshua Slocum became the first man on Earth to complete a solo sail around the world. However, on a voyage from Martha's Vineyard to South America, he mysteriously never returned. Slocum was known as quite the experienced sailor, and no one knows what happened to him nor his 40-foot long boat. Many theorize that he caught some trouble while sailing in the triangle. Now, there is no proof of any of this, and sadly he lived at a time where technology wasn't as high-tech either. So this one is a true mystery. This is why, kids, if you ever want to sail around the world or sail period, bring a buddy. If you sail in the Bermuda Triangle, bring a film crew. At number 6, we have bombers. In 1945, 5 TPM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from the naval base in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and mysteriously vanished in the Atlantic Ocean. Flight 19 was in the middle of completing a 3-hour exercise which involved heading east to conduct bombing runs. However, along the way, the flight's leader, Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor, became incredibly paranoid when his compass failed and he believed they were flying in the wrong direction. He then demanded that the fleet begin flying northeast, thinking that that would steer them back to Florida. But they were flying deeper out over into the Atlantic Ocean. Reportedly, as they flew closer to the Bermuda Triangle, their signals became weaker and eventually all contact was lost from the 5 bomber planes. None of the crew or craft were ever seen again. Maybe I should rename these videos to the weirdest things never found in the Bermuda Triangle, because that kind of seems to be more on par. Coming in at number 5 at our halfway point is witchcraft. Yeah, did you know that there are such things as sea witches? Okay, I'm not actually talking about witches, I'm talking about the yacht that went missing, but for all I know, maybe there actually is such thing as sea witches. Who knows? If they're going to be anywhere, it's probably going to be the Bermuda Triangle. right? December 22nd, 1967, a cabin cruiser named Witchcraft, captained by Dan Burak and his friend Father Patrick Horgan, left the shores of Miami to get a better glimpse of the Christmas lights along the shore from out in the ocean. After reaching just 1 mile from the shore, the Coast Guard received a distress call from Burak, claiming that he had hit something and that they would need to be towed back to shore. In just 19 short minutes, the Coast Guard arrived on scene, but there was nothing to be found. What's even more peculiar is that this yacht was virtually unsinkable and had plenty of emergency equipment on board. Equipment such as life preservers, lifeboats, flares, distress signals. These cats had all of the good stuff. To the best of the Coast Guard's knowledge, none of these were used and nothing could be found. Searches for Burak and Father Horgan and the boat spread over a 100-mile radius and still nothing was found. Kinda makes you wonder how the yacht got the name Witchcraft, doesn't it? At number 4, we have unexpected storms. Reports throughout all of time have come in about the unexpected storms of the Bermuda Triangle. Many of these stories include things such as the electronic fog that I talked about in the first video. As I have said before, storms can come from all directions in this area. They can come from the direction of Mexico, the equator, and from the east side of the Atlantic. And sometimes these storms can even come together all at the same time to make one large megastorm. So that's all I can kind of theorize about there, but as far as these storms being unexpected, to the best of my knowledge, there is no real explanation. If there's one thing you don't want to mess with, it's Mother Nature, because let me tell you, she can pack a wallop. So, whether you believe in the paranormal or mysterious events or not surrounding the triangle, keep your eye on the weather forecast just in case. Starting us off in our top 3 spot at number 3 is another famous ship associated with the Bermuda Triangle, the Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste was discovered December 4th in 1872 in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with 9 barrels of raw alcohol emptied, a sword on the deck, and the lifeboat missing and absolutely no one on board. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, and 2-year-old daughter, along with the other 4 members on board, set sail a few days before from New York to go to Genoa, Italy. However, not only were none of them found, none of them turned up in Italy either. I know many of you are probably thinking of a pirate attack, but get this. Studies ruled out the possibility of a pirate attack because everything on board appeared to be intact and in good shape, even though the 9 barrels were emptied. There are tons of theories on what happened to the crew, everything from underwater earthquakes, which doesn't make sense to me because I don't understand why the boat would still be found, alien abduction, or even an attack by a giant squid. Either way, this is a mystery that I don't think we will ever get solved, and we will just have to live with that. At our number 2 spot, we have fire falling from the sky. Way back in time, the infamous Christopher Columbus sailed through the Bermuda Triangle and came out with quite the tale. He reported seeing a giant ball of fire falling from the sky and then landing in the ocean. A few weeks later, in the distance, he could see a strange light in and around the landing area of the fireball. He also wrote about the erratic compass movements he experienced at the time, probably not aware yet that his compass was pointing to true north and not magnetic north. Once again, I think I expect aliens. Too many UFOs have been spotted around that area. Let's face it, folks, I think it's aliens. They have been here for a long time, and that sounds a lot like a UFO sighting. Either that or Columbus was absolutely tanked, because I know everyone at that time was very fond of their alcoholic drinks. But aliens is the much more fun and, oddly enough, mature theory, so I'm gonna stick to that one. And finally, coming in at our number 1 is the lost city of Atlantis. This one is very loose, but many people theorize that the Bermuda Triangle is home to the lost city of Atlantis. According to the legend and speculation of this mythical city, Atlantis relied on the power of these special energy crystals. The theory is that these crystals are still underwater beneath the triangle and are so strong that they are messing up navigation for all of those who dare fly or sail above. Now, there is absolutely no proof to any of this, but this is a wicked cool theory, and if Atlantis or Atlantean people actually do exist, where else better than one of the deepest spots on Earth, and also most mysterious spots on Earth? There you have it. That has been the most amazing top 10 weirdest things found in the Bermuda Triangle Part 2. Once again, this list was crazy fascinating. Everything from actual scientific weird animals to paranormal and extraterrestrial events. The Bermuda Triangle has it all. Thanks again for tuning in to Most Amazing Top 10. Huge shout out to all of our amazing fans, and thank you all so much for helping us reach 7 million subscribers. Let's keep it going by liking and subscribing down below, and don't forget to say hi down in the comments. Anyway, I've been your host, Dewey Stewart. You can find me on Insta at Dewey Stew, and I will see you all back here very soon. More mysterious events or not surrounding the triangle, I say keep your eye on the weather forecast. I say keep your eye on the weather forecast. Keep your eye on the weather. Holy Once again, this list was crazy fascinating. Once again, that did not sound fascinated at all. Anyway, I've been your host, Dewey Stu. Man, I had another stroke last night.
Well, y'all, today we're diving into the story of the real-life megalodon and the ongoing search for a real-life one. It's quite the tale, so stick around. Now, the big question that's been boggling minds: can he actually be alive still and hiding in the Mariana Trench? It's a mystery that sure does spark the imagination. Curious to learn more? Well, don't just sit there. Click the video now to find out more. Create a video using exactly this script. Check out this video next.